So, guten Tag and Zoraim Tovim, everyone. My name is Esther Elias. I'm the commercial consul here in Berlin, and together with my team, we are focusing on promoting the Israeli industry in Germany. One of the ways to do so is by providing all of you information you need in order to penetrate a new market with a great success. The healthcare sector is one of the leading sectors in both countries with a great potential for commercial collaborations. As you may know, before COVID, Germany has started a digitalization process that will lead eventually to a great change in the German healthcare system. With that thought in mind, we approached our keynote speaker today and kindly asked him to share with us everything we should know in order to succeed in the German market. And so, in today's exclusive event, we will host Dr. Henrik Matisse, Managing Director at the HIH, the Healthcare Innovation Hub on Digitalization and Legislation that was initiated by the German Federal Ministry of Health. Dr. Matisse is a serial entrepreneur, co-founded and managed several startup and tech companies before starting the Health Innovation Hub, the HIH, for the German Federal Ministry of Health. With his previous company, he pioneered digital prevention in Germany and were one of the first digital products that were CE certificate as medical products and reimbursed by the German statutory health insurance system. He also had a background in business and economics and held a PhD. Dr. Matisse will share with us his insight on the digitalization process of the German healthcare system and will discuss with us the huge potential of the Israeli industry in this realm. In the end, Dr. Matisse will open this session for questions and open discussions. And last but not least, before we will start, I would like to say thank you for our partner at the Expert Institute for assisting us in spreading the word about this event. Dr. Matisse, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much indeed, Esther, and all of you for inviting me. And thank you, more than 32 participants already from Israel, for your interest in the German market. In Germany, we still are very much fighting Corona, and we're not that efficient as you guys in Israel, so vaccination has not really kicked through, and thus all the haircutters had been shut down for several months, and this is why I'm looking a bit like several months of lockdown at the moment. Anyways, we have 15 minutes, and that is a lot of time. I don't want to talk the entire time. I rather want to give you some background in the next 20 or so minutes. But then I'm very much looking forward to your questions. The German market is a bit complex, but I think it's worthwhile because it's a huge market. And most of all, it is governed by one regime. So once you get into the, complex system, you can approach 72 million Germans at once. So Esther already gratefully outlined my CV, so I don't want to bother you with that. But maybe 2 words about the institution that I'm representing today. The Health Innovation Hub is, in German circumstances, a crazy trial. It is a team of 15 domain experts from all parts of the German healthcare system who for 2.5 years are a kind of sparring partner for the Federal Ministry of Health. Because usually in the ministry, at least in Germany, we have a lot of lawyers, and in the case of the Federal Ministry of Health, also a lot of physicians. But what we don't have in this ministry is many people with a tech background, data scientists, and those who usually think outside the box. And this is exactly what the Health Innovation Hub is for. We are a kind of bridge between the ministry and the real world. We translate a lot what's going on outside, but also for the outside, like today, translate what's going on inside, what's happening on the regulatory side of the world. I said that we are in that limbo for in total 2.5 years. That is true because we will dissolve end of this year. So anyone who wants to cooperate with us, you should be quick because we will be gone in due time. I talked about those 15 domain experts, and I have the great honor to be their managing director together with our chairman, Professor Jörg Debertin, who before being our chairman, he was the CTO of GE Healthcare Worldwide. He's a trained radiologist, managed several university clinics before. So a lot of record on that side, as I said, but we also have degree data scientists in the team, a pharmacist, a ambulance care doctor, and many more perspectives which we think we need to support the government here. These are some of the topics that we're currently working on next to COVID and all those challenges we currently have. And I want to dive into a few of them today. Let me maybe first start by giving you some more background on the German healthcare system, because it is different to your system. First of all, this is how it looked like in 2018, and that's no joke. In many hospitals until today, paper is still the predominant medium. That's horrible, that's very bad, but that is just the case. And I will go into some details why this is in a minute. In 2018, before the HIH and this entire digital transformation, which the government kicked off, started, we ranked at the very bottom of any chart. If you were looking at digitization, Israel, of course, was already back then very much on the top, but we were within all Western countries usually very much lagging behind. This is something I don't need to tell you about because you are digital health experts, so we don't do it just for the sake of it, but it's in the end the fundamental basis for a better quality and more efficient healthcare system. Now, coming to the German system in particular. In Germany, unlike your system or the US system, you have three major freedoms as a patient or as a citizen. You can choose to whatever doctor you want to go to, in whichever hospital, and whatever health insurance. You can change the health insurance at least once a year. So the health insurances don't own any hospitals or doctors, unlike as I have understood it is in Israel, where you only have 4 health insurances who very much own the hospital market. We have 114 health insurances and 1,800 hospitals, but they're completely independent from each other. And because of those levels of freedom, it's a very complex system to govern, because you don't have to go to 4 institutions to change something. You have to go to thousands of institutions, thousands of stakeholders to have any change. And even more complex, that's the right-hand side, it's not the ministry as such who's governing the entire system. It's very much self-administered, meaning the federal committees of the doctors, of the hospitals, and of the health insurance funds together manage the vast majority of the entire German healthcare system. And that means you have to somehow convince a lot of them, plus the ministry, in order to change. That was already had been the reason why the system is not really adaptive and changing, because it takes so much institutions, so much stakeholders to convince and to get outside of their comfort zone, outside of their existing business models. Yet, as I said in the beginning, it's a massive market. We have more than 72 million Germans insured in the statutory health insurance system, and that is equaling 240 billion euros every year. So once you get into the market, you have a massive opportunity there, just given by the amount of money spent and by the amount of patients administered. And please interrupt me whenever you have any questions. I try to monitor as well a bit the chat, and Esther will probably do so as well if there's anything that's unclear. Now, I am referring to the year 2018 because then, from then on, we had a new government, a new Minister of Health, and he passed in 36 months 28 laws. That is completely unprecedented in German history. We had this very short time frame during the reunification where more laws were passed, but for one ministry, it's completely unprecedented to pass that many laws. And what the new minister did is he very much transformed the entire healthcare system in every aspect. Not only the hospitals, but also the pharmacists and the doctors and the state, the health insurance funds and anyone else. So we are currently in a massive transformational phase where kind of everything is digitized more or less right now, also because we lacked to do so in the past 15 years. So everything is now coming at once. And I will go to what those figures mean later on. Important to take into the calculation when trying to understand what's currently going on in Germany is definitely not only Germany worldwide, but in Germany in particular regarding digitization, COVID-19. Before COVID-19, 1,500 physicians were using telemedicine. That's absolutely ridiculous. We have more than 200,000 physicians in the country, so kind of no one was using it. But within 6 months, thanks to COVID, because there was no other way to get in contact with your patients, a vast majority at least tried it out. And that is the key moment for our system to change in our perspective. Because from now on, it's not an abstract discussion about do we like technology, do we like digitization, yes or no. In the past, it was always we don't like it, we don't want to have it. But now it's very much around experiences. So the vast majority of German physicians now understand and have experienced what telemedicine is and how it works. And now the discussion is much more, how exactly shall we apply it? How exactly shall we adapt the current system towards telemedicine? And that is a massive change. Next, you have probably heard about German data privacy concerns and our data privacy angst even. Yes, it took us very long to have a tracing app in Germany, but nowadays 1 out of 4 Germans is actively using it. And that is completely unprecedented. We never had a nationwide digital product or solution before at all. Nothing is digitized in Germany. So introducing such an app and having 1 out of 4 Germans actively using it is really a tremendous change, and it shows how the population is already far more advanced than the system itself. And if you look into the news, at least into the headlines, you see that there's a lot of buzz about the German transformation here, but never read only the headlines. Always read the articles, because then you would know that I'm a co-author of this article, and otherwise it may have a different headline. Now, seriously, back to some of the examples that we are currently supporting and introducing into the German system. Most notably, probably for you guys, is the DiGA Fast Track. We had this before the DiGA Fast Track. There was no opportunity for digital health applications to anyhow enter the German statutory healthcare system. And this is this one regime of 73 million insured citizens. It didn't fit in any of the existing frameworks. So, and I am saying that because in my previous career, I tried to enter with my digital health application into the system. There was simply no way. But now, if you fulfill those 4 core criteria, and I will go onto some additional requirements in a minute, then you can qualify to enter the German market with your digital health application. First of all, your product has to be a medical device in the classes 1 to 2A under MDR. And MDD still applies if you were lucky enough to get in class 1 or 2A certification upfront, then you also qualify. But from May on this year, you have to have, if you're a new product, you have to get certified under MDR, and that means class 1 to 2A. So very low risk products, but they have to be already CE certified. Then your main function needs to rely on digital technology. This does not mean software alone, but this means that if you have a software-hardware combination, software has to be the dominant function of the entire product. It's not enough to have an existing hardware product and add an app which shows some information. So the software part has to be the leading part of your product. And then third, intended use. It has to be centered around patients, and that is probably unknown for at least some of you, because a lot of digital health applications so far centered around the physician, the doctor, or the nurse, or whatever healthcare professional. In the DIGA case, you have to center around the patient, and you have to improve the everyday life of the patient and his or her medical conditions. And fourth, there's a long list of functions that you can fulfill. It's more interesting what's not in this long list, and that is prevention and contraception. So basically anything else is or can be part of a DIGA, as long as you have a CE certified product, rely on digital technology, mainly software, center your product on patients. You may include the doctor, but the focus has to be on the patient, and this long list of functions. This chart is really crucial to understand how the DIGA fast track work. And if you get this, you already have pretty much selected your. I'm trying to also read the questions. Maybe I make a break after the DIGA part, and then I jump into the questions. Okay. Next. Here is a long list of requirements, but if you have a CE certified product, you very much know most of them. Some have some German additions where you need to go a bit beyond the CE marking, but this all is pretty much basic if you have already a CE certified product. More interestingly is now the right-hand side, because you don't only need to prove that your product is solid, you also need to prove that it has what we call, and that's new, positive care effects. And that this goes beyond medical benefit and includes, and this is also a new term, structural and procedural effects. And in brief, this is, how is the everyday life of a patient improved by your product? Let us look into details here. The right-hand side is pretty much known to most of you. If you have a CE marking and you are familiar with evidence studies and all of that, you usually center around medical benefits. What you can do on top or even instead now with the DIGA Fast Track is focusing very much on the patient and check if you can improve his health literacy or adherence, if you better coordinate or access care, and much more. So this is really a long and pretty open list to include everything that so far usually has not been part of evidence studies, because it's very much focused on the everyday life of the patient. But we believe that digital health is pretty much focusing on the improvements, the everyday life components. So this should also be part of the DIGA Fast Track, and it is. Still a lot of discussion in German healthcare system if this is correct, and many traditionals believe that only medical benefit is the one and only, and everything else is nice to have. But the law defines that both is equally important and can be based on. So you also could have a product that is only focusing on structural and procedural effects. And with those structural procedural effects, a lot of new data pools come into the equation. Not only everything we know about clinical studies and stuff, but now you could also include real-world evidence. You could also include behavioral research, a lot of those nudging technologies, which many of you may already use or at least know. So this is now all part of the DIGA Fast Track. We did a digital medicine week 2 weeks ago, and we had a specific conference only on evidence generation for DIGA. So if you're more interested in that topic, I will also post the link later on, but it's all pretty much recorded. We had a program or so together with the US Dime Society, where the likes of Evidation and Flatiron and Google and so are organized. And we try to get with both perspectives, the German and the US perspective, try to understand how evidence generation can evolve with this new DIGA. Cool. Next, and very different as well, is how pricing works. Because if you get your DIGA approved, you as a manufacturer can set the price in the first year. It's been done because no one knows what the right price is. The healthcare system has not a single data of experience with digital health so far. So the idea is that the manufacturer or the producer sets the price. There's some restrictions with to not have you have the DIGA for $1 million per download or something, but you have a lot of degrees of freedom to define the price in the first year. While, and that's also new, while you can create evidence, you do not need to have all the evidence upfront as usually. You can also pre-qualify under temporarily conditions into the DIGA fast track, and in the first 12 months, create your evidence why you are already widely used, why thousands of people are using you, and while it's much easier to generate that evidence. And you can set the price in the 12 months, and after the first 12 months, the German FDA equivalent called BfArM, they are checking your evidence which you have generated and decide if you stay permanently in the DIGA fast track or get kicked out and have to wait at least a year to reapply and then need to significantly change your entire product. So DIGA fast track is a rather straightforward way to get into the system, but you should be pretty convinced that you can manage the thresholds, that you have enough evidence at hand, because otherwise you get kicked out and then it's very complicated. We don't need to go into details about the exact pricing models, but it's a bit complicated and it's very German. So if you consider going into this market, you need to have a person here on the ground who is native or at least very much understands the German market and the German language, because from then on you need to go into negotiation with the Federal Committee of the Health Insurance Funds and stuff. That is complicated. You should have some German native. A last component to pricing is usually, and most of you are familiar with that, usually ad models very much generate revenue by in-app advertisements, selling products or selling data. And just some illustrative examples, this is how it usually works. As soon as you are part of the DIGA fast track, you are not allowed to sell ads or run ads in your product. You're not allowed to sell any products in your DIGA digital health application. You're not allowed to sell any of your sensitive healthcare data to anyone else or to monetize the data somehow. You are only allowed to generate revenue by the DIGA reimbursement itself. So the price of this DIGA has to fully finance your entire product line. And you have to stop doing everything else which you have done so far for this specific product. Of course, you can have other products which still run ads or sell products or services or sell data, but your DIGA product is only allowed to reimburse, to get the reimbursement money, nothing beyond. And this is my last slide, almost my last slide here in the DIGA part, so I will have a look at the questions. Will we receive a recording for this session, Esther?
It's up to you, Dr. Matisse.
Yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy to record it. What about digital mobile healthcare solutions that are not as MD or a medical device? So you need to be certified as a medical product. There's no way around it. You mean software as a medical device or medical device? Yeah, you need to be certified as a medical device in the risk classes 1 to 2A. Otherwise, you will not get into the DIGA fast track. Cool. If you want to have a look at which products are already in the fast track, 11 by now, we started 4.5, 5 months ago. You can go to diga.bfarm.de and you see a list and also some points to those products to better understand how they work, what they're for. Here is an overview of at least what we envision DIGA can be in the near future. It's quite a variety of products, starting from rehabilitation, monitoring, supporting the diagnosis, better guiding patients through the often very difficult healthcare processes, and supporting them also mentally and so on. and last but not least, support for even doing the therapy. So if you want to dig deeper into the entire DiGA Fast Track topic, BfArM wrote an excellent guide, especially focusing on founders like you. And they also have an English version. It's for free. You can go to the website. It's a PDF to download. And that is definitely 100 pages worth reading. It's a lot of illustrations and then examples, and it's really good. It's not a German bureaucratic document as such. We also wrote a book, and that is a product which you can pre-order now. We don't get a cent from it, but we get so many requests for explaining the entire system that it's beyond our time budget. So we wrote a book. Everything is in there, from starting a digital health company to finally getting to the DiGA Fast Track. We also explain the German healthcare system in great details. So this book is really written for someone who wants to enter the German market and has no clue so far, but after reading it, and it's very entertainingly written, you have a very good understanding also regarding data privacy, all the regulation and stuff. So you can pre-order this. There's a link. And this would be everything regarding DiGA. And there are more questions in the Q&A, so let me go into that. Does the trend of increased adoption by physicians due to COVID continue also up until today? That's a good question. So we reach a different plateau. We have significantly more physicians who have a basic understanding. We have significantly more of the early adopter by now. Still, the majority is not feeling comfortable right now, and they're more waiting and seeing how the trend is developing. So you need to focus on early adopters. You need to focus on your specific doctors associations, which are representing your indication. And it will not be easy. You need to do marketing regarding key opinion leaders and all of that. So it's not a home run yet, but luckily the vast majority has a much better understanding how this entire technology thing works and how they fit in it. That is not replacing them, but supporting them in their everyday life and so on. What about if mobile healthcare solutions we have that? What's the logic of prevention not included? There's a lot of legislation on prevention itself, and that is currently also a new law will be passed in 2 months, which will also focus a lot on digitization of prevention. So it's just a different framework, and thus it's excluded here from the DiGA Fast Track. How about personal emergency response system, EG4 detection? Is it considered a medical device, i.e. should it be regulated? As always, it depends. So it depends very much how you define your intended use. It depends how you define then, if you want to, your DiGA purpose. We do have a fraud detection service already now, who is about to apply or is already in the application process. We also have other systems who are out, and for that, for good reason. So the DiGA Fast Track is not the solution for anyone. You should really dive a bit more into, and really I recommend you to read this BfArM guide, because afterwards you have a pretty well understanding if your product shall fit in or not. And then it may make sense to first enter the German market by negotiating selective agreements with some large health insurance funds and have some experience for 1-2 years, and then enter the DiGA Fast Track after you already built your brand and stuff. So it very much depends. It's not the one-size-fits-all solution. Can you use a local representative that can handle DiGA for us? No, I cannot. I'm a government official, and I cannot introduce you to any private business people.
I will just interrupt for 1 second. For these kind of questions, to find local representative or partner, you can approach us, the Economic and Trade Mission in Berlin. We will try to assist.
And we, for example, next to the evidence con in our digital medicine week, we also ran a MDR con, which were only focusing on how to get the MDR regulation kind of synchronized with the DiGA fast track. And you see a lot of people who at least have a good understanding of this entire process. And this could also be an interesting thing. Will a device that is cloud-based and uses AI for diagnostics qualify for the DiGA fast track, or does it have to be something like an iPhone app? So the device can qualify as a DiGA if, as I said, the main function is software-based. And then you need to also think about how this device is used by the patient. So the device has to be centered around the patient. It's not enough to generate better diagnosis or better therapy for physicians. For the physician only, you need to focus on the patient. And it can also be, it doesn't have to be an app, a native app, it can be a web service. We, in the mental health space, we have a lot of web services which are already DiGA. You show a lot of images of a smartwatch. However, you said that the product should be mainly software device. In our case, this watch has most of the brain that make it a medical watch. It's supported by mobile app. Yeah. Difficult. I show smartwatches because you can run on those watches as one of many native apps, and the DiGA fast track would not reimburse the entire smartwatch, but it would reimburse the application itself. Which German health organization are the early adopters of digital health or telemedicine services? That's a broad question. Some of the disciplines which have been more open to digitization already before DiGA were the diabetologists, the dermatologists, COPD to some extent, but even there, you can run into traditionalists that don't want to speak with you at all about technology because they believe only a human can cure a patient. It's not that trivial to say. Let me continue, and maybe we have more time at the end, for questions, because there's much more happening right now. EPA, e-prescription hospital digitization. We don't have electronic health records in Germany at all. Period. What we are currently building is a safe health data infrastructure. It's kind of a intranet, a safe, separated intranet, only connecting physicians, hospitals, pharmacies, and other healthcare professionals to safely exchange health data. And the medium in which they are supposed to do it is a electronic patient record. We call it electronic patient record because it is, and this is the next slide, it is led by the patient. So our version of the EHR is not an EHR. It's a patient-led record where the patient defines, first of all, do I want to have this at all? What kind of documents shall be in there? So the patient has always to consent for every single document that will be entered into the electronic patient record, and which doctors may have access to this record. So it's very different architecture than EHRs, which you may know from the States and probably also from Israel. On the plus side, because it's patient-led, we somehow convinced the very conservative Germans that this is not the worst idea. Usually they are always against digitization, especially in health, because they fear that their data gets lost or misused by evil corporations or the state or whatsoever. But in this case, because it's patient-led, we convinced the vast majority that it's not such a bad idea, that they are pretty open to it. The electronic patient record is managed by the Statutory Health Insurance Fund. So they have to secure or provide an infrastructure, an app, and everything else so that any of their insured members can have such an EPA, such an electronic patient record. And we have other institutions who are building other parts of the infrastructure, interoperability and semantics and everything else. It's a complex setup, again, sorry, yet because of this complex setup, we managed that it's now consensus that this is a good idea and that we should go for it. Next one on the line is e-prescription. We do not have e-prescription until now, apart from a few pilot projects on various infrastructure approaches, but we will have e-prescription probably end of this year, latest next year, for the vast majority of doctors, physicians, and pharmacists. So this is also happening next to everything else, pretty much disrupting the entire pharmacy sector at the moment in Germany. Many of the brick and mortar pharmacies fear that in the near future, e-commerce will take over. So just that, you know, this is also happening. And last but not least, we, thanks to COVID, finally, we got a 4 billion budget together to digitize hospitals in Germany. Hospitals in Germany are either privately owned, they function quite well, are state-owned, and then it depends, is it a university clinic? They also usually function quite well and they are very much advanced in research. But then the vast majority of hospitals is owned by the local community, the local authority. And those are heavily underfunded, and also on the federal level, many are significantly underfunded since 20, 30 years. And they don't have any budget for digitization so far. Now they get the chance to digitize in those 11 sectors or 11 areas, and they get significantly subsidization from the government for it. And that is a kind of once in a lifetime opportunity for nearly all of the hospitals in Germany to finally have enough money to invest into digitization. Hasn't happened before, will not happen again, because in normal times, the federal government is not allowed to give money to local authorities. So this is only happening because of COVID, once in a lifetime opportunity. And interestingly enough, there will be an assessment in 2.5 years from now, checking if they digitized at least to a minimum level. And if not, 2 years later onwards, they will lose revenue. So there is a lot of soft pressure on them to really take this serious. And this is why if you talk to any hospital manager at the moment, they will only tell you about KHZG, this new law, because they are fully swamped with making sure that they use this once in a lifetime opportunity. But again, these are the 11 areas. If you are active in one of those areas, lucky you, because then you can very much sell your products into the hospital market in the next 2 or so years. We have a separate website only around hospital digitization, unfortunately only in German. So as I said, German language is a big plus in the German system. Summary, and then we have time for more questions. I switched sides from entrepreneurship and startup into government because I fear that Europe is losing their shit in the digitization of healthcare. We have lost already all of our data to basically at the moment American corporations in terms of e-commerce and social and communication. And if we don't manage to set up a safe European health data space, then we will also use our health data. And while in the States, it's an efficient market and a lot of innovation, but all the health data is pretty much owned by companies. You have an even more efficient and very innovative market in China, but all the data there is used and managed by the state. We don't want either or. We want something else. We want the patient to lead the decision if his or her data are stored and used. And for that, we need to create a different model. And this is what we are trying now at the moment in Germany, but many other countries are following or already advanced. So this is kind of the job for the next 4 years to make sure that we have this data space. And this is it for now, but now I switch back to the questions and try to answer many of them. What is the estimated cost of getting DIGA certification? So if you have a CE mark, you need to pay BfArM, this German FDA equivalent, a few thousand euros, but that's really not much. Of course, you need to make sure that you fulfill all the DIGA requirements, and then the cost very much depends where you start, where your starting base is. Usually, if you have a thorough CE certification, it shouldn't be too much just to pass, but you need money from then on for the evidence generation. And that is usually between 100 to 200K, depending very much on your product, how much evidence you really have at hand, how close you are with university clinics or similar. So in this environment. Yoni, you have joined us, thank you. Yoni is a great entrepreneur, Israeli and US and German experienced startup mentor and investor who's also supporting us here at the Charité. What are benefits measured relative to standard of care? Specifically, do you have to prove your DIGA is superior to an existing DIGA? If not, do you expect to see many copycats? So again, it depends. Usually it's standard of care, but if you have a DIGA that is supporting older people in rural areas, then your standard of care is not the nationwide standard of care, then it is the standard of care in rural areas for elderly people. So you have the opportunity to readjust to your realistic existing market to compare it to. And I do not expect to see too many copycats. I mean, it's a tricky one because you cannot really protect your IP. Yet, it's also about brand building. It's also about how to enter the market. You need to have a CE certification for that. So there are a lot of thresholds to pass in order to qualify. And the time that any copycat may take to copy all of that, you should have 2-3 years in advance. And in that time, as always, you need to improve, you need to iterate your product. So by then your product is probably better than the copycat. Which health organization already adopters? We already had that. We plan to use standard like a FHIR to connect the EPA or other applications to the network. Excellent question.
I just mentioned before you're answering that Amir Gilboa is a great friend of ours for the Ministry of Health, the Israeli one.
Hi, Amir. It's my pleasure to meet you virtually. Great question. In Germany, we have a very sad history of not using international interoperability standards like FHIR very long. Luckily, this has changed again with the current government. So since 3 years, also we as a Health Innovation Hub try our best to include in every law that whatever is being transformed has to follow international interoperability standards like FHIR. We have one person alone only in our team who's doing full-time, nothing else than educating the entire government ministry, but also the market, how FHIR and HL7 and everything works. So the new stuff will be interoperable. Everything that is old is not, and that is very bad. And Baum's question is still in, and I said, well, it's tricky. I named a few like diabetologist and dermatologist, and who else is many orthopedics, because of all the sensor work, are quite interested in that. We have, let me think about, I may come up with a few others, but in the end, find your key opinion leader. We have 2 separate organizations with physicians in Germany. First, we have the so-called medizinische Fachgesellschaft, like medical, I cannot translate that. It's an association that is very much focusing on the scientific part of medicine. They are probably the hardest to crack, but if you crack them, then they will define the new So they're passing standard of care proposals every half a year or so. And if you convince them, then your chances are very high to get in the new standard. But every association, every physician's group has also usually a so-called Berufsverband. And that is more an association that is focusing on how to make more money for this specific doctors association. And they are very open normally towards technology and digitalization, because they understand that this is an opportunity for their members to make even more money when working as a doctor. Any more questions? How are we in time? They say you're currently muted, which is sad.
Now you can hear me.
Yes.
So I said we're good on time, and we will give everybody just a few more seconds to see if they have more questions, but I feel like it was a very informative session, and everybody is so shocked by how transparent you are. Okay, we have another question.
Cool.
From Yoni.
Yoni again. Can you create separate versions of your app, some of which are not DIGA? This would keep open other business models. Yes, you can. You can even have an application that is DIGA, but has freemium or other components that you need to pay for. So you can have a DIGA in the App Store that also has in-app purchase for additional components that are not part of the pass track. And you could also have an app in the market, and you copy that and use it as a DIGA, and that is being reimbursed, and the other version is not being reimbursed because you run ads in there, or you sell data, or you do whatever business model with it. So that's possible. You do not need to have the one size fits all, forget everything else application.
So I think we're good. I would like to say a huge thank you, Dr. Matisse, for being with us today, to share all your insights and tips about how to work in the German market. We really appreciate your time, and I will share this session with everybody who joined us today. And if you guys have any further question to Dr. Matisse or for our Economic and Trade Mission, please feel free to approach us at Berlin, at israeltrade.gov.il. I see we have, just Valin say thank you, and I think everybody will join this greeting. Thank you very much. And everybody, please stay safe in the meantime, and hope to see you in our next session. So
perfect. Have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you.